Hello, welcome to an educational moment. I'm your host, Dr. Pat Dingle. Today, our topic is Current Trends in Education, April 2011. I will be sharing a couple of articles which I encountered online, which I think would be of interest to you. The first article is entitled Requiring Algebra 2 in High School Gains Momentum Nationwide. The second article is entitled Teacher Leader Course Help Turn Around Schools. The first article was in the Washington Post, and it's written by Peter Whoriskey. It's dated Sunday, April 7:57 p.m. It doesn't have a specific date. It just has the month listed. This article is quite interesting. It basically seems to give the pros and cons of requiring Algebra 2 for students that graduate high school. In the article, according to what I read, they have found a correlation between students who do well in the workplace and students who do well in college as it relates to Algebra 2. Those students who do well in the workplace and also do well in college have a high correlation with having taken Algebra 2. Now, we all know that a significant correlation does not indicate causal. So just because there's a positive correlation doesn't really give you any answers, because it cannot say that it causes, taking Algebra 2 causes you to be successful in college, and it causes you to be successful at the workplace. So that type of generalization cannot be made based upon studying statistics. However, it does raise some issues in terms of what should students do in terms of, preparing themselves better for the workplace and in terms of preparing themselves better for college. In this particular article, it mentions a group called Achieve, and this is a group that was organized by governors, business leaders, and funded by corporations and their foundations for the purpose of improving skills in the workplace. Now, the two sides, according to the way that I understand the article, one side feels that schools should require that all students take Algebra 2. And they feel that this is important because it's, requires more ability. And so they believe it should be made a requirement. And they give an example. Whoriskey in this article gives an example that 20 states and the District of Columbia require Algebra 2. In the article, it also states that Virginia and Maryland do not require that every student take Algebra 2. In terms of statistical information, in this particular article, it says that a study conducted by Anthony Carnival and Alice Desrochers, and I'm not sure of their pronunciations of their names at all, so I apologize if they're incorrect. And it says that both of these individuals used to work for the ETS, the Educational Testing Service. And what the research found is that those students who took Algebra 2, that the ones that had higher tier jobs, top tier jobs, 84% of those in top tier jobs had taken Algebra 2, and they don't really define in this particular article, copy of the article that I have, they don't really define what their top tier jobs are. Then it also says that only 50% of the employees in the bottom tier had taken Algebra 2, so they're trying to use this as an indicator to show that it may have some correlation. It's interesting, though, in the article that even though Anthony Carnevale actually conducted this research and did the study, that he is against making all students take Algebra 2. The con against having all students take Algebra 2 in high school is that it may cause certain students to quit Algebra 2 because, of course, Algebra 2 requires, higher skills, and it's a little more difficult. And so they speak against this because they don't want the students to drop out of school, because they obviously want students who have a high school diploma. And so the point is made that this really is not necessarily authentic to the workplace, and this is what I put in there, because it says the causal relationship in the study is very weak. And it says, I'm quoting from the article, says, most people don't use Algebra 2 in college, let alone in real life. The state governments need to be careful with this. So this is a point brought out in the article. And so if you have an authentic activity or an authentic experience, those are experiences that are actually used in the workplace. And so a lot of times we talk about authentic learning and authentic assessment, meaning that it's more practical. So that's a con against it. Something else that I pointed out in the article in my notes is that it's somewhat vague. It's a little vague. And the other issue that I bring out is that it's common knowledge in the educational field that students who take more math courses and more science courses are going to do well, better in the workplace, and they're going to be doing better in college. This is just common knowledge. As a matter of fact, I cannot cite the source at this time, but it's part of my general knowledge is that your experiences in terms of math, the number of math courses you take is supposed to be commensurate with your success in the workplace in terms of your earning income. However, the point was made in the information that I read some years ago that what type of math course was not the determinant. It was just the fact that you had taken a good number of math courses, and typically they were saying, according to my recollection, 3 math courses, in high school. So I think that based upon this article that I read, I would encourage the students, of course, to take Algebra 2, but based upon this study, I mean, again, correlations do not determine causal factors. So I think that a lot more needs to be studied as it relates to this particular position. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's so interesting that, all school systems want to improve the academic achievement of all students. And so it's a great opportunity for a lot of nonprofits and business organizations to become involved. Obviously, there's funding available to help students improve academically. However, I think that it's also very important for educators to wisely use these resources and the advice from these particular organizations, because obviously the education of children is very important, and we don't want to impinge upon students in a negative way. We certainly don't want to encourage students to be dropping out of school. As you know, nationwide we have a 50% dropout rate, high school dropout rate. So certainly we would not want to place requirements which would deter students from fulfilling their full potential. And on that note, I do want to say that I think schools must be inclusive. One of the observations that I have made in my school as I work and in schools in general is that in order to run a school, you have to have various types of occupations and various employees in the school. We have our custodial staff, we have our support staff with our administrators, administrative support, our secretaries, our guidance counselors, of course, are considered professional faculty. But the point is that we have so many different people who contribute to the school building. We have a school nurse, we have, of course, a psychologist. We have all of these individuals. We have parents that come in as volunteers, and we have parents who come in and as part of the PTA, and they make recommendations. And quite frankly, my position is that we need all of these members in order to make the school successful. And to that extent, I want to say that every job is important. Every single job is important in a school, because in order for children to learn, we have to have clean facilities. We have to have heat, obviously. We have to have our cafeteria workers who prepare the food for our students. So I think that it's absolutely essential to recognize at how a school must work and operate as a unit. And so to say that, I'm saying that students need to develop their skills to the highest potential that they can. But I also say that we need every worker in our schools, and we need all the workers in our communities. And so therefore, I think that we need to be inclusive in our schools, and we need to recognize that to be authentic, we really do need to teach skills and processes which students can use in their workplace, and that we know that we have different wage levels and different salaries that we get. However, I think the dignity of working is very important, and I think that every job requires a different set of skills. And so I strongly believe that we need to be more inclusive and supportive of all of our workers in the workforce, because truly a community, a school is a small community. None of us could fare very well if we did not have the different workers which we have in a public school and in our community. I want to move on now to the second article, and this article is basically about a new strategy, or rather, I would say a current strategy that's being used. I don't know about how many of you are familiar with the term turnaround schools, but we do have that term in our vernacular today. And essentially, we have turnaround principles and turnaround schools where there's a greater emphasis on academic achievement, and strategies are being used at these schools to help students raise their academic achievement, because certainly with a nationwide percentage of 50% of students dropping out of high school, that everybody again is looking for ways to improve school improvement, to raise the achievement. This is the